Hey guys, welcome to Punky's World. Today is my Uncle David's 76th. I'm going to call him. But I wanted to tell you why he is special to me. And I will link his quilt of honor ceremony in the cards. I need to note that, otherwise I'll forget. You know, when I was little, yep, and I have a board meeting at 6 o'clock and it's 3:45, so I have to eat too at some point. I want to be getting these up before the board meeting starts. Anyway, my uncle was like my dad in some ways, but not in others, because my uncles are quite as shy as my dad. My uncle had that same silly, boyish sense of humor as my dad. My uncle, I'm trying to think. I remember when I was a kid, my uncle had strict rules at the table, and he'd get you with a fork. And I was talking to him about that, because we were actually talking at the table and stuff at his house. And I'm like, how did this happen? I would get stabbed with a fork when I was a kid. He laughed. He said, well, you can thank my mother for that. Which I know is true. I know it was my grandmother that started that. It's just not something my father did, you know. I mean, they would say, Auntie Mabel, get your elbows off the table, you know. Because Daddy had an Auntie Mabel, and she was one of the people that would say, get your elbows off the table, you know. So I like the armrests. They're in the perfect position. You know. So I knew about that stuff growing up, you know. And my uncle and my dad came to see me at the hospital. I was in St. Vincent's, the Catholic hospital, for whatever reason, because I'm not Catholic, but oh, I know why, because my mother worked there. Actually, she didn't work there then, I don't think. But anyway, it was one of the hospitals that I was in, and I was there. That might be a good place to get records from, because I'm sure I have quite a number of records there. And we call it St. B's for short. Around here, everybody knows when you say St. B's what you mean. I guess there's one in New York City as well, St. Vincent's. But we're talking Worcester. So, I was in my crib, and I distinctly remember pulling my stuffed animals in my crib, just started throwing them at my father and my uncle. My aunt and my mother had just left, so evidently I wanted to get out of there. But dare you leave me here? You know, like, according to the adults, because I was a baby, I just remember throwing them at them, and it was fun, and them laughing, and I remember one of the fondest memories I have with my uncle is him coming to get me at school and walking me home holding my hand. I love that memory. just awesome. I think I was in kindergarten. And another thing I remember is he used to take his belt, fold it in half, and go like, and make a loop. It would be folded in half. He would hold each end, make a loop, and pull. That noise sent me through the roof so many times. Because if you weren't looking, which was the whole idea, it would scare the bejeepers out of you. Well, probably more me than anybody else, as far as the boys go, because I don't like loud sounds because of the autism. So, but none of us knew that, But my uncle used to come with us. We would go to Whale Park, and my uncle and my dad would run off to mini golf. Sometimes they would let one of the boys go with them, but usually it would be my mother stuck with all three of us kids, at least three of us, if not more. Sometimes my Aunt Edie would go with us. I remember one time, it was Uncle David, all four of his kids. No, it wasn't. It was Uncle David. This was the most people we ever squashed in our car. It was me, Mom, and Dad in the front. In the back, it was Uncle David, Auntie Edie, who is not a small woman, and Uncle David is not a small man. Uncle David is not fat. Auntie Edie is heavy. But Uncle David, over 6 feet tall, 200 pounds, but, solid. And Auntie Edie, like 300 pounds, not solid. And I'm not trying to be rude. Plus the two boys. So we had Dennis sitting on the bump. Cars today don't really have the bump in the back seat like they used to in between the two sides. A lot of cars don't have the bump anymore. Or if they do, it's a much smaller bump. Well, Dennis sat on the bump like a saddle. Baby sat on Auntie Edie's lap. I think we did have the girls. I think Renee sat on Uncle's lap and Lisa sat in the middle. I think we did have the girls. So it was, you'd never get away with that today. Squishing all those people in the car because nobody had a seatbelt on. Well, I did because I was in the front seat, in the middle. Because it wasn't captain's chairs, bucket seats where you each have your own individual seat. It was a bench seat, so there was a middle. I used to sit there a lot. And I didn't like sitting there. And I got to sit in the front seat when I was alone with my dad. So I always wore a seatbelt. I just when my uncle was married to his first wife, the mother of his 4 children, his first 4 children, I would go over there and they would come over, and even after the divorce, he had his 2 boys mostly. 2 girls were elsewhere, and I think Renee was with her mom, and I'm not sure where Lisa was. But Lisa was 6 years older than us, so she was older. She lived with us twice as my foster sister. And So the boys and I grew up like brothers and a sister. You know, they were my brothers. And I still, when I see them, it's like no time has passed. You know, it was so good to see them about 3 weeks ago. It's amazing. I do have to call my uncle. I'm sure all his kids are calling him today. Well, maybe not Dennis. Lisa might. I know Renee will, and I know David Allen will. I will say that about David Allen. He actually, oh wow, this bounces. That's so good. He actually does keep in touch with people, even though he doesn't visit anyone. I remember my uncle coaching my cousin's little league team in the summer, and because both the boys, they were only 14 months apart, I think, so they were on the same team. And then going to Dennis's house and seeing my uncle's bookcase, it flooded the memories back. And Renee said, "How do you remember all this stuff?" I'm like, "Renee, that thing was in your house my whole childhood. It's where your father's Stephen King books were." My uncle puts his arm around me and says, "That was a long time ago, hon." Like, I think he was surprised I remembered that, but, well, yeah. And Uncle made it in high school, which I didn't remember when Carrie told me that, but thinking back on it, my mother did tell me that. And I think she asked Uncle about it at one point, and he said it was at Dennis's. I just didn't remember any of it. In Dennis's living room, I looked over at that. OMG! You know, I knew it immediately. I took a picture of it because it's just nostalgia for me. And I remember the boys and I used to listen to my uncle's Foreigner tape. It was Foreigner 4. It was the best. And it was one of Uncle's favorites. And we listened to it under the threat of death. Because if we had gotten that tape eaten, oh boy, would he have been mad. So, oh, that's my hair thing. So what light, bright thing I could see up there. Duh, it's called a scrunchie. Anyway. So, yeah. We were allowed to listen to it under the threat of death. So, because we liked it as much as he did. He used to play Risk with his boys. And I noticed, I was looking at Dennis's game, just said, "You're missing one. You don't have Risk." He said, "I don't like that game." And I said, "You used to play it with your father and your brother all the time." And he said, "Because it was something we did with Dad." I said, "You guys would never let me play because you said it was too complicated to teach me." And he said, "Truthfully, it just would have taken a long time to teach someone else because that game was hard." He said, "It was hard for me. So to teach someone else would have taken a long time." That was the only reason. It wasn't that they didn't think I could do it, which is what I thought. And I said that to him. I said, "I just thought you guys didn't think I was smart enough to play." And he said, "No." He said, "You know, that's a hard game even for me." He said, "It just would have taken a long time to teach you." Because it takes a long time to teach anyone. So that was nice to hear. Okay, my arrow is over in the rain zone. It looks like there's Can't tell what the humidity is. Oh, because that's not really humidity. Down here is humidity. Humidity is about 56%, which is good for indoors. I love my uncle, and there he is. I know he's happy, even though, number three, he's with wife number three. They're both elderly now, and he so slapped me across the head. He did a biff. Not hard, but I love him to pieces, and I just want him to know that. I don't want him to ever doubt someone loves him. And his brother loved him. They were very close. I remember them watching wrestling together. That's how I started watching wrestling, because my dad and my uncle watched it, and I just came and started watching it. So, I want to say I love you, Uncle. Happy birthday. Mwah! Big hugs and kisses, and I will see you very soon, Uncle. Probably the end of next month, if I had to guess. And I'm actually very excited. I didn't think I would be excited about camping, but I am. I really am. I mean, she showed me pictures of that place. I can't wait. Anyway, and it's always fun to hang out with my cousin. Oh, it really is. As long as we don't talk politics, we're fine. It's going to be a fun 3-hour drive. We'll probably stop for food, and, it's going to be fun. Anyway, and I may take you along because we're going to a campground and get a video of the beach and stuff, just for my own memories and stuff. And maybe do we'll call it a daily roundup at the end of the day in my tent. So I'll bring the camera. I probably will not bring the tripod. So that's the plan. And the best part is I get to see my uncle. So God bless you. Have a wonderful rest of your day. And I will see you next time, where we'll do a genealogy video. Bye, guys. Please subscribe. Trying to get to 100.